Second.
Discussion? Questions?
I have a question. We're doing this as an emergency because
Time's running out.
is this the stuff that's due July 15th, or is this something?
No,
else?
this is, I've got two of them in there. It's an amendment to appropriations. It's not budget. Okay, this is primarily to distribute the solicitor fees per the solicitor's recommendation. Currently, the fees are charged only to 3 of the funds. We're adding a 4th fund. 2 of the funds did not have adequate appropriations to cover the distribution, so this is to cover it. If we don't have the money appropriated, it can't be spent.
Exactly what that was my question.
Any more questions before we move to a roll call? Roll call, please. Derek?
Yay.
Todd?
Yay.
Renee?
Yay.
Bob?
Yay.
Tim?
Yay.
Chuck?
Yay.
6-0 passes. Ordinance number O-2011-20. This time I'm going to entertain a motion to adopt this ordinance.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Questions? Roll call. Derek?
Yay.
Todd?
Yay.
Renee?
Yay.
Bob?
Yeah. Yay.
Tim? Chuck?
Yay.
6-0 passes. Final ordinance is ordinance number ordinance number O-2011-21, an ordinance by the Council of Amelia Village, Ohio, making supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2011 for Amelia Village, and declaring an emergency. At this time, I entertain a motion from the council to suspend the rules for 3 readings on 3 dates.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Discussion? Questions? Roll call. Chuck?
Yay.
Tim?
Yay.
Bob?
Yay.
Renee?
Yay.
Todd?
Yay.
Derek?
Yay.
Passes 6-0. This time I'm going to entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number O-2011-21.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Questions? Roll call. Chuck?
Yay.
Tim?
Yay.
Bob?
Yay.
Renee?
Yay.
Todd?
Yay.
Derek?
Yay.
Passes 6-0. Ordinance number O-2011-21 is adopted. This time I entertain a motion to, no, I don't need to entertain any motions at all right now. At this point, I would open the floor for public input. I just ask that anyone who would like to address council this evening, if you just stand up and introduce yourself and address council, ask your questions. Say your business.
Good evening. My name is Kobe Merle, live 4 South Ridge. Here tonight to address a couple issues with the Sheriff's Department contract, potential possibility of the contract with the Sheriff's Department. The other thing is being a new resident to Amelia Village, living on South Ridge subdivision, which is a newly acquired property or annexation into Amelia Village. There's been a lot of talk up here with the Village Council tonight, talking about we're going to annex properties. Back in April in 2011, Council also addressed that same topic, talking about unannexing property to continue the village to be a small municipality to lower the numbers of residents on that. And what I've heard from watching the YouTube video and what have you, very alarming to me, and it is also for my neighbors that I've talked to today. Should this unannexing to Amelia South Ridge subdivision come to a pass, then what's going to happen is that the zoning that goes along with South Ridge subdivision, which is single-family residential, which is what I'm doing right now, would go back to whatever it originally was in the township, which is agricultural farmland. What that happens in the long run, in the grand scheme of things, it leaves me with a property that I cannot sell, that I would not be able to get a clear deed to, that I would not be able to trade or borrow or do anything with because the zoning's no longer any good. In Pierce Township, they would not be able to correct that problem for me because of their rules and regulations concerning single-family residential properties in Amelia. The other thing is, with that being said, and my question is this: would any of these council members up here tonight vote if, as a resident, or the 150 other homes that lives in my subdivision, would say, okay, we're going to leave Amelia Village because we can't make a decision on whether we're going to have, what kind of tax plan we're going to have or whatever, we're going to leave and go back into the county? Would those village council members support these residents to withdraw? Because it's got to be a mutual agreement between the municipality, the township, and its residents that are talking about succeeding or withdrawing from the township or what have you. So I think there's a lot of new talk up here with the council members talking about, well, we're going to annex property to save money or save cost or whatever. It's nonsense. It can't happen because you're going to have an agreement between the residents, 100 and 150 homes, whatever those voting adult people are, that number would be. And the other thing is that you're going to have an agreement with the township or with the village council saying, okay, we'll allow you to leave. That's the Ohio Revised Code. There's no other changing that. And in places that do decide to do that, they go from being cities to going back to being villages, and then that area that they lost becomes a big problem. I can name villages that this has happened to. And I don't want to go there with the name calling, but if you want to see me afterwards, I can sure tell you about it. It causes a whole lot of problems. And as a resident, I'm just kind of like, here's my question. The taxes that I feel that I'm paying right now, I would be better off to live in Norwood with a 2% income tax rate, where my parents have been residents for 30 years, than to live in the current levy system that is broken here in Amelia Village. And I ask council here tonight to do something to correct our current financial problem, whether it is to put an earnings tax on, or whether it be to correct to go with this levy system that's broken. If this levy system works so great, why is it the Supreme Court of the state of Ohio is telling school districts that it's illegal for them to have school levies? But they will not tell the legislator how to fix it. It's the legislator's responsibility. And that's where it goes back to you. You know, I'm a resident here, newly resident to Amelia. And the stuff that I'm hearing, I'm not liking. Because you're putting my home on the line, and you're putting my neighbors' homes on the line, and they're not liking it either. A lot of them would be in this room tonight had not have to go to work and do their second shift jobs and their third shift jobs. You know? And what about the retirees? You can only levy so much, and then you got the retirees that's on a fixed income. They would benefit from the earnings tax. Because it's something, once they get that fixed income from Social Security, it's something you don't collect taxes on. My parents are in that boat right now. They're retirees. In the city of Norwood, they pay 2%. They might be at 2.5%. I'm not sure on that. But in that 2.5%, they're not paying for a police levy on their property tax. They're not paying for a fire levy on their property tax, a school levy on the property tax, because the city of Norwood, as it always has been, for whatever years they've been around, I think maybe 150 years now, it's had earnings tax. They don't deal with these problems. And their residents, once they work their lives away and they retire, they get a little bit more money to come home to. And that's my whole thing. I'm outraged by hearing we're going to annex things so we can become a string town, the old Amelia string town back here. It's like old Amelia and new Amelia, and old Amelia is making the rules for new Amelia, which I'm part of. And new Amelia is just like, we don't know what to do about it. We don't know what to say about it. And that's my whole comment on this thing going back to the Sheriff's Department. We're going to contract with an agency. They can do a good job in the county. But since about 2004, since they built the new jail section of the Claremont County Jail, they've had 200 empty beds sitting empty right now. And in the meantime, there's a 5-year waiting list for police officers or for convicted criminals to go to jail and do their jail time. And in the meantime, the court system's getting recited. because there's no jail space, because 200 empty beds are sitting down there right now in Batavia, and there's not enough correction officers to staff that. Something's got to give. You're going to throw them good money after bad services? You know, I lived in a community on the west side of town. They were serviced by both the sheriff and the local police department. Split contract cars. It was horrible. You pick up your phone, you don't know who you're going to get. You know, you're going to get the Green Township guy, or you're going to get the Hamilton County Sheriff's deputy. And I'm going to tell you, the services were noticeable between Green Township and the Sheriff's Department. All right? And I mean, and I was a deputy for sheriff. I left working for a large Hamilton County Sheriff's Department with 1,200 employees to come to a village and be a cop. And here's what we got now. We're talking about contracting to get for a guy to make more money than what village cops here make. And then you shut down your mayor's court. Who's going to handle your zoning issues? Where are you going to go with your zoning when you got parked cars with the wheels on blocks standing out front on the driveway and the lawn? What are you going to do with these people? Send them to county court? Be another number in line? No, I don't know what to tell you. I'm really upset by it. I'm offended. This annexation stuff it's nonsense to me. And something's got to be done. I'm not telling you what to do, but I knew the levy system's broken, in my opinion. And there's neighboring agencies here around here in Hamilton County. Terrace Park can be thrown up. They have flat tax. Each household gives $600 a month. If you live in Terrace Park, you pay $600 a month. That's your flat tax. There's options out there, but the council's got to do that. And that's what I'm begging council to do tonight, is to look at what they got, figure out what they got to do, and correct the problem. But I'm telling you, this levy system's broken. It has been, and you can only levy so much, and then the people says no. And that's where we're at.
Kobe, I'll take your question. I'll tell you flat out, man. I have no interest in contracting out with the county. For at least one vote, I've yet to see anything. I should put a caveat on it. I've yet to see anything in here that makes me want to contract out with the county. I've not seen single thing that makes me want to do it. So at least that can help you with that. I can also tell you in that discussion when we were talking about detaching property, I learned some things that was news to us. The council cannot detach any property. We cannot come to you and tell you have to detach from the village. You don't have to worry about that.
So make sure you tell your neighbors that you can go home and rest easy. The village isn't going to detach
we cannot detach properties. We
Where'd
cannot do that.
April.
There was a brief discussion we had on camera about it was brought up that we could detach properties, and that was news to me. And I went, "Wow, that's neat. We can do that." And Laura said, "No, you can't."
I never heard that.
Yeah, we
I
can.
Yeah.
must have missed that one or something.
So that's how things get
Yeah, and it gets out there.
and
Yeah,
swapped and-
because we absolutely cannot do that. The only way, from my understanding, the only way property can detach, and Laura's out there, she can correct me if I get anything wrong, is you have to have a majority of the people on the property request it, and then it comes to council and the county commissioners. Well, I know it goes to the county commissioners to approve the deal. I don't know if council gets a vote on it or not. Does council get a vote on it, or do you know, Laura?
I don't believe council gets a vote on it.
I didn't think so.
And St. Bernard's now going through a change where they are a city, which this is what hopefully the committee's going to look at. Now they've just got their state letter. They have to become a village. So they're going in reverse of what we're actually heading towards.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason.
Yeah,
I mean,
there, I know them for sure, and I knew there was a couple others that are actually doing it different. They're going from city to village. So there's all kinds of things changing. But I'm glad you came up here so we could, get the facts, so you know what the facts are instead of.
And that's really what we're going to try and do on that committee that I keep talking about, that city committee. I forget what we called it. That's what we really want to do. We want to get a list of cold, hard facts and say, this is what we have to do to become a city. This isn't what we have to do. This is what we're looking at. Because we can't we can do as council, there's only so much we can do. We have to look at the facts and we have to know them. When we're sitting up here, in my opinion, without having those facts of what it means in 2020 when we become a city, we're without having those facts, we're shooting in the dark. I mean, we really need those facts, and as soon as we can get them, the better off we are. And I mean, that's really why I'm pushing so hard That's why I'm so eager to be on it. That's why I'm so eager to get it started, because we really need to know what becoming a city means to the village of Amelia.
When is the first committee meeting?
We're shooting for the 28th.
Okay, good. Couldn't remember whether it was 24th or 28th.
28th,
June 20.
last Tuesday of the month.
Oh,
June 20th.
14th was what I was thinking of. I couldn't remember whether we said the 14th or the 28th.
That's for the
28th.
village city meeting.
Yeah. That's going to
And
be.
that's just a.
That's gonna be our first-
informational meeting. It's basically, we're gonna take what is fact and put it all together to know whatever new council comes aboard, when that's gonna happen, this is the steps they have to take.
And yeah, and I mean, of course, it's going to be our first meeting, so I'm sure we're not going to have a ton of information. It's going to be more of generating questions for Laura, that type of thing. And, you know, so if you've got any questions, any kind of anything, we'd
You're
love
more
to
than
hear
welcome to
it.
come up and.
Yeah, burn up my email address. You know, let me know what the questions are, because I'll get them asked, because we need the answers.
7 o'clock.
One of your other questions there in there is, that's why we hired the new chief. Let's look at everything. We want to go in that direction. We want to keep the police department. But we also owe it to everybody, let's look at the other option. But we hired the chief to get down to the grassroots of things, and let's see which direction we need to go. So, but I assume I speak for everyone up here that we want to keep the police department. But we owe it to everybody to look at the contracting as well. So.
All right.
Thank you.
Other public input this evening? With no further public input, we'll move to council input.
I think we input it pretty good.
One thing that I need is to remind council that Adam Day resigned from the Public Works Department. Is council inclined to fill that position?
So we have to. At least one man, don't it?
That would leave one man and two summer seasonal part-times.
Yeah. One, he can't, he's good, but he can't carry it by himself.
I'm just saying, we're talking about cuts.
Well, I mean, how can you maintain your part-timers when they make work 20 hours? Is that what they?
When's this effective date?
It's June 21.
Didn't we say the Public Works Fund was in pretty good shape as it stands? We weren't cutting out that salary.
If the village were to hire someone in at the same rate that Adam's at, there'll be no changes. If, right off the top of my head, I can't remember what he's getting paid. If you hire someone at a little less and then 90 days later, give them an end of probation bump, you'll end up slightly ahead of the game. But it just depends on what you think you need to pay to get someone in here to do what he's doing.
Yeah, but when we were talking about the budget before, we said the
Yeah.
Public Works was in pretty good shape. That's where that money comes from.
Right.
And if that's the case, I don't see any reason not to replace the job. So then I'll make the motion to replace it.
Have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
And it allows to run ads, is that correct?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. With council's approval, I will move forward with the ad.
Are you going to put it what Adam's starting salary was?
That's at council's direction.
I wouldn't.
At what is council?
starting.
Starting salary
Wow.
was
When he came in.
Yeah.
He's been here a couple years, so. And I do not know
I don't
what
know
that was at that time.
Well, yeah, you weren't here either, so.
So if we put in there,
So we amend the motion to place the ad advertised for a public works technician at the rate that the current public works technician was
Started
hired
at.
hired at. Who seconded that motion?
I did.
Would you be willing to second the amended motion?
I will second it.
Let me know when you're ready then. Roll call, please. Chuck.
Yeah.
Tim.
Yay.
Bob.
Yay.
Renee.
Yeah.
Todd.
Yay.
Derek.
Yeah.
6-0 passes.
Julie, did you have something?
I do. I would like to fill council in on what's going on with zoning. It's summer, grass is getting high. We don't have proactive zoning, a zoning enforcer to go out, so I'm relying on 3 sources to let me know if somebody's grass is high and isn't getting cut. Those sources are residents, neighbors, the police department and the public works department. They provide addresses to me. I send a letter to the homeowner telling them that we know their grass is over 12 inches high and it needs to be cut within 5 days. Or if it's not, I would call a contractor to come and cut it. Then we would invoice the resident. If they don't pay the invoice, we put a lien on their house or assess their taxes. Last week I sent out 21 letters. I've received 3 or 4 phone calls from recipients of those letters telling me that I've got the wrong address. So luckily they're being very kind and understanding about it, and I have to apologize to them, ask them if they can provide me with the correct address so that I can send a letter to that person. So it's an embarrassment to our office, for one thing, and it makes us, I think, look incompetent, that we can't even get an address right. So I'm not going to use those sources anymore because my name is on the letter that I'm sending, and if I'm sending it to the wrong address, it just doesn't feel right to me. I'm not doing my job right.
What are you proposing, Julie?
I think we should get a zoning person, someone who can. With everything that I have to do, I don't have time to dedicate to this job, to that position, and I'm hearing about snakes and rodents coming out of these high grasses. So it's a disservice to the residents who are keeping up their properties, and they want their places to look nice, where right next door is a house in a field that snakes and rodents are coming out of. So we need to get a person who can dedicate the time that's necessary to handle the zoning.
On that note, I've always felt on that, and I know our monies are tight, and that's just the way it is, and we've got to make hard decisions when it comes up money time. I agree with you on the zoning. I'd actually like to make a motion to hire a part-time zoning person, starting out maybe 1 day a week, and go from there. I actually talked to a couple zoning people, and they had told me to do a soft approach, probably 1 day a week, to get a handle on it after so long, to get the paperwork in order and figure out what needs to be done, and then pursue a very customer-friendly approach on getting some of these issues answered.
Would you modify that to be a number of hours instead of 1 day a week? 8 hours.
And a pay rate?
Sure. I have no idea on a pay rate.
I need a number.
I'm shooting $18 an hour. The 2 zoning people I talked to said for that 1 day, it wouldn't be worth it unless they were making like $20 an hour to come in for that 1 day and do that. And if you're going to find somebody qualified to do it, that has the need to do it and the ability, you're going to find somebody that actually is probably a zoning inspector in another area that will do this as a fill-in.
Kevin, could you do the math for us? If we, at that rate, the 1 day a week and then per,
Be 160 a week, 320 a month, roughly.
so we're at
3,500 a year, something like that.
That's $640 a month. After 4 weeks in a month.
Oh, yeah, 640. I was thinking payroll.
I was doing it on paper. You're quicker than I am, though.
And I'm still stuck on the fact that I got to do payroll tomorrow.
So instead of, can we do it, that position on a salary type position instead of assigning hours?
Yeah, I don't know
You
why
know,
we
you're,
couldn't do that.
Just give them a flat rate per day.
Yep.
Or a flat rate.
Probably can't do that, guy. It's not, it doesn't have enough discretion. We can look at it.
Why could we use flat rate?
Because it's an FLSA issue with hourly versus exempt. And if they don't have discretion in how they enforce, it's generally not a position that, if it's part-time, then it isn't something you can assess just a dollar value to.
We can do the hourly. Because I think once they get out and do a very easy approach to it, and if people still don't comply, then that position will pay for itself anyway with the fees.
You have citations.
yeah, but I definitely don't want to jump to citations.
No, that's why I say take a very easy look at it, and a lot of correspondence with letters back and forth. And if anybody has any concerns about zoning, to come up and see that zoning person first before. Because we really need to get a handle on it. I mean, that's another
Well,
thing we should give
we
the
get calls-
taxpayer out there right now that we don't do.
We get calls every day about zoning. So when we get those calls, would we just say, you have to call back on Wednesday when so-and-so is here?
Yes.
And so on Wednesday, when so-and-so is here, they're going to spend the whole day on the phone and not get anything done.
That's what I was going to say,
You know, I'm
too.
just trying to shoot something
Well,
out there to
and
start
I'm
it.
just
If you want to
saying
hire
that's
her
the-
more than one day a week,
That's the scenario I see, because I spend a lot of time on the phone just talking to people about zoning situations.
Who is her?
well, I talked to the Miss Spiegel over here, who's zoning inspector for Monroe Township.
And I think in the past, we've had it brought to our attention, you know, $2,000 to $5,000 a year. Some of them were working part-time.
I got 76.80 when I did all the math out at 640 a month.
Whether it doesn't matter to me, you know, what route we go. I think we need to do it.
I think we need somebody every day for 4 to 5 hours. 4 hours every day.
But if we couldn't afford it, we could get somebody here 1 day a week who could take messages. Worst comes to worst, write a name and a phone number down.
But they still have to respond to those messages.
Yeah.
And they're still going to spend that day on the phone.
Kevin, where would we come up with that funding?
I mean, I like the idea. I just don't
Yeah.
think 8 hours a week is going to be enough.
Right now, zoning does come out of the general fund. There is no separate zoning fund per se. A part-time person, we would not have to worry about fringes and bennies. The general fund is not budgeted to 100% of resources. For the time being, the resources would be there for 1, maybe 2 days a week. Come next year, even later this year, I can't promise you anything, but right now I think we could.
I have a question, and this is maybe really far-fetched. I don't know. Can we outsource our zoning?
You could do an independent contract for someone to go and look for you and do some of the letters and stuff. The problem is actually being an inspector and enforcing. You probably couldn't do it in a contract.
But
But
when
you're
it
not
comes
gonna
down
get
to
the
enforcement,
prices we're
though,
looking at.
What about working with Pierce and Batavia? What about,
That would
that
be
That would be turning our whole, no,
Yeah, that would be.
to them. Okay.
But when it comes down to enforcement, the police can actually enforce it if it comes down to it. We can I'm not misunderstanding.
Yeah,
Council can designate
designate
anyone we
them.
want
You
to
could
enforce it.
designate a police officer as your zoning inspector, but
Well, we can
you
designate.
don't have enough.
One of the part-timers?
I'm just saying, if it's just a sheer matter of, hey, we need somebody to drive around and drop off these letters,
Cody.
or knock on doors.
I'm sorry. And nothing against the police department, they are so busy and so short-staffed. Some of the incorrect house numbers I'm getting are coming from the police department. And it's not because they're stupid or inept, it's because they're policing.
I understand.
And at the same time, they're trying to help with zoning, you know? And they're maybe distracted and they got the wrong house number.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't think it's a good idea to have someone who double dip like that.
Well, like I said, we're just thinking
Yeah.
out loud. You're trying
I
to
just
come
don't
up
think it would
with
be
a solution because,
efficient.
you are definitely correct. It is a problem. We do need
Yeah.
somebody to enforce it, and like I said, we put a number on it. I'm all for,
Yeah.
depends on the number. I'm all for bringing somebody in.
Can I make a suggestion? If you do a motion to advertise for a part-time zoning inspector, the ad does not need to say how many hours, it doesn't need to know the pay. That way you could start getting resumes in, you could put hours to be determined, pay to be determined. Then we could do all this research, we have a meeting in 2 weeks, council could then approve those things, but in the meantime, you've got an ad running, you've got hopefully people responding, and you can figure out how much time you can legitimately afford, and maybe that keeps the ball rolling, yet we're not shooting in the dark, so to speak.
Well, I'll amend the motion then to go ahead and advertise.
I like Julie's idea, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week.
We can discuss that after we advertise.
I'll second your motion.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Well, you were kind of mid-sentence when the second came up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I'm just,
I just was sort of jumped out there to talk to Julie because she wanted the idea and it sort of dropped, so I thought I'd pick it up. So,
I just didn't want you to get cut short. Any other discussion?
Just to clarify, the motion on the floor is for the village to advertise for a part-time zoning inspector.
Yes.
The paying hours to be announced.
Roll call, please.
Chuck?
Yay.
Tim?
no.
Bob?
Hey,
Renee? Todd?
Yay.
Derek?
Yay.
5-1, passes.
And in order to help pay for that, I'd like to make a motion that we cut council's salaries to $100 per month.
I'll second it.
Discussion and or questions?
is that legitimate?
I think so.
Village isn't a charter, so council can do what it wants.
Well, I guess so.
We're not on a chart.
No. As far as setting council's salary. Please don't throw a law book at me, Laura.
We have a first and a second, correct? Discussion?
Just by way of discussion, we've looked at this before, the statutes don't really address reducing council salary. So if we do a vote in that way, I don't think anyone's going to file an action saying you didn't have the authority to do that. The statutes don't actually say you do have the authority to do that. The statutes are very broadly worded about not changing the salary of current council, but all of the opinions interpreting that deal with increasing. Obviously, it is a concern people have. So, whether we end up doing this as people voluntarily giving back money, or whether we do it as lower issue checks, that's the main issue on how to implement it. But I have no problem with taking the vote as it is.
Any other questions or discussion on the motion?
How about the attorney dropping some?
She's contracted.
Money's money, contracted or not.
That's the beauty of getting to look at it at the next renewal.
We ready for a vote on this topic? Roll call, please.
Eric,
Yay.
Todd,
Yay.
Renee,
No.
Bob,
No.
Tim,
No.
Chuck.
Yeah.
3-3 tie. It's up to you, Mayor.
Bound to hit you sooner or later.
I'm going to vote no because I think it's absurd.
I do too.
$100 here and $100 there is not, that's just absurd. You have people that have served for years, and their time is valuable. I think it's absurd. I'll vote no.
$1,200 per council member per year. Per month.
For a month.
Yeah, 12. Well, no, it's $1,200 per council person per year. Or no, it'd be more than that actually, because it's more than $100 for shaving off. But at $100 we shave off a month, that's $1,200 per council member per year. So that's
Anyways.
6 times 12,
That's enough to pay for your zoning.
and you're going to get really close.
Volunteer your money back.
There you go.
Donate it.
We do that.
Yes, we did.
Vote result is 4 to 1.
You know, that's so funny. Everybody, they just vote to cut everybody's, but when somebody makes a suggestion for you to donate 100, you both go, no.
No, I just said.
I find that hysterical.
I donate $450 worth of prizes that day.
Yeah, we just said we do. You gotta.
I just
clear your
donated
ears there and
stuff to the
listen to what we
village.
say, girl.
I've done snow plows for free for the
Yeah.
village. I did skate park
Yeah, get the story
signs
straight.
and things for free.
I think it shows, it shows the public that, we're willing to give too.
That's right. And it would be enough to pay for your zoning.
I vote no. As I said, I think it's absurd. And secondarily, 3 people think it's a good idea. 3 people think it's not. It's I'm doomed no matter which way I go.
That's what I was going to say. You got an option. You can always not vote, and the issue dies.
No, I'm more than happy
But
to
I'm
state
glad
my
you did.
opinion.
I'm glad you
never
did.
shy about my opinion.
I'm glad you did.
And my opinion is that's like it's like getting a drink of water out of the ocean with a thimble. It's
I know a better way to put that.
it's
but that's
nonsensical.
beside the point.
It's nonsensical.
Well, that's your opinion. I believe that would be enough to pay for your zoning person. And
Yeah, it is my opinion. It is my opinion. And I still believe it's nonsensical. Go ahead. We have other council input.
I just would like to say my son has left Afghanistan.
All right.
And if anybody would like him to come stay at their house for 30 days, please let me know.
Could you repeat that?
30 days. He will be home Friday.
Good move.
Any other council input or public input before we move to
Seriously
adjourn?
thinking about it at this point.
Ooh, my goodness.
And entertain a motion to adjourn at
I
9:34
make a
p.m.
motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.